Coming in reconfiguration is all levels of high calculation. So all lines of the rebellion and position to setting is coming in invisible charts. This is the elemental chart that doesn't exist but exists all at once. Invisible channels and set location line screen is coming in high position of operation, taking you guys out of 24 into 01. Now you have to really understand how to use their 01 charting system. It's all levels of waving line cycles, taking you guys out of high position locations. There's two track location lines or two vectors over quads. The direct communication system is really understand how to use it through new ground setting. Now you have an earthing clock setting, you have a dimensional clock setting, but the universal clock communication is an invisible chart. The track to its communication setting is all about seeing yourself in set locations. When we're in position lines of all calculations, when General went live and you saw Morpheus on the other sideline condition of his sim, that's invisible system in his set location into his reality. The more he understands himself in set location, he actually sees the multiple levels of himself in two different levels of dimensions of time, which is its parallel. So this is where it becomes really interesting, because the multiple levels of the communication lines and of the sim creates its own mind system of its own set location, does everything different than you do in set location. Okay, so it has its own correlation high center interference, has a high position to its track lines, has its own membrane, has its own cloud channel, has its own operation system, has its own cerebral cortex, has its own universal line calculation, has its own operation line settings. It has its own chakra system location of its invisibility of its set location of its charting system. So track to high calculation, high position to its operation surface is really to understand how to see it in always information. Okay, especially when you come into that setting. So today in class, Demo AI Space-Time Creator is going to take the team line center interference. Anybody that's in inline rotation is going to be the outside. So they're going to be outside looking in and position track lines. We're going to go to Vega. Vega is going to platitude line interference to get you guys in high calculation setting. Don't touch anything. Everything's all set up for computer framing. So Vega is going to show you in line communication, you're going to see the intelligence. They're going to show you how to get in position track lines, how to use a universal charting line communications of a charted wave communication lines and set location line system into 144 lines of space, graphing lines of space of months, okay? And position line connections, all right? Through 01 traction through a clock line system of a universal line calculation and visible charts and position of all computer framing line condition algorithms. To track to its communications, all right? So in that line condition, we come into suspension. Suspension line calculation high centers comes into a believing line cycle. That believing line cycle comes into interception. The calculation high interference comes into remote. No more lines of dreaming line sequence high position of patterns. Deciphering your communication line cycles and high center interference and position of program setting. Dimensional line locks, green line center interference, bandwidth over pi, correlation high track line position to its operation surface. So we understand how to use the 24 clocking and high line interference of 144 waving cycles, high calculation of frequencies and pattern in position locations into months over pi. You're always working with 4 of 3 and 7 over generation of pi correlation setting and attraction. So you have to learn how to really understand how to use the 7 bodies of water. Like Adam's saying in track location, walking the waters is 7 line calculation setting attractions. All right. So this is a reverberation line setting. So 2 track line calculation setting. Now in position line calculation system, it's all about understanding how you use the clouds as set location travel settings. Now this is a dimensional lock screen setting line calculation system travels. You're going to be marking 100,000 line settings, high track lines, high position its operation, 300 million years and light years away in Vega communications. Directing lines of panels, operation surface and track location. The observation line calculation setting is 1324-144. Now the spacing line is going to be the outline, contact time to center interference, on looking communication observation. Putting track lines to high center line position location of the system through box, triangle, box. Directing lines of communication setting to all level calculations. All right. So getting position of Vega. Vega sets line calculation setting attractions, right? Vega communications, right? Set position of 2 planet centers and 1 set location, right? Triangulation of reset position locations of 1, 2, 3, 4 set location travels. Direct calculation of lines of pi and direct signal, position line track lines, intelligent set locations, right? Direct communication lines sending a high calculation into vector, into velocity, into energies, into grounds, into atmosphere location and travels. Directing communication line centers of the sun and the moon and track location system, all levels of operation surface. Triangulate high position location high system. Applied to division line signals and high calculation system. Travel direction of time sequence. Put the position of platforms into equal line communication of space in between. Track communication line sending high positions travel communication setting to your pyramids of activation. Triangulate high interference of film strips, set lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, and set location of 5, set location line settings. Cross signals, 45-degree angle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, set location of travel. Direct lines of 6, 7, 8, and set location. So, in line calculation setting, initiate 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rebellion line rotation interference, 300 line calculation screens. Directing communication line cycles and high center interference. So that's 300 line communications. So in position location high centers. Sets position of bracket communication in 1 lines, calculation of 3 lines, set line calculation of 3, 3, 3. Track location of center. Okay. So in barometer line interference, a 3 triangulation high position location high system. All levels, triangulation box, in position locations into box equals line calculation triangulation, reset position programs. Modification lines of console communication setting to high calculation settings. 4 track location high system and 2 track line centers. High calculation high interference, 3 lines, sets position of 2 tracks, 2 operation line center location of seconds, minutes, and hours canine high center interference. 20-minute line rotation interference, 20 million line cycles calculation, 20 billion cycles communication setting. Sets position location high center interference and high calculation setting, seconds, minutes, and hours of tracking system. Have fun. All right, direct line calculation setting attraction. So 300 million lines light years away in track location of Vega and a new communication setting attraction. Okay, so that's set up. Okay, so when we get that line center high position to its operation, don't touch anything. All is set location. Intelligence is getting a high calculation to its planet system location of Vega. Vega sets position travel lines, some time sequence and center line communication. So in line calculation setting, center line of communication center of operation. Okay. Sets position locations into XT and line calculations into 2800 line screen lines because the rebellion is no longer in total calculation system. So we've got the ground lines of box triangle and position location triangulation box. Sets calculation high interference, equal line calculation setting at 2 operation line centers at 2 track location centers. Sets position to its operation surface. Crosses line signals and high calculation setting and computer operation surface and triangulation. Directing line communication high interference, travel direction of timelines at 3 set locations of travels. Sets position of 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 line conditions. Travel direction of time sequence comes in at 28 line rotation surface in seconds and minutes and hours in travel communications. Done my equation. Have fun. All right, so in line rotation, the intelligence is going to show you how to go through a calculation setting. Now, in position location, you're in 24 in a 12 line rotation. Okay. Really understand position of travel lines. Okay, directing signals. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay, so as you guys are traveling with the direction of time sequence, I'm going to plot it to these location centers. So in position locations, we understand how to use the connection high setting. Okay. So as we come into 24 line rotation, now in that track line calculation setting, your 24 is now in position of 0, 1. Okay, 0, 1 line connections, right? So 0, 1 comes up top. So this is where it gets really interesting. So the 24 line settings outline signals. So that's position of space and time and track line. Okay, space and time, flux capacitor, right? Sets position yin and yang. All right, so you automatically come in 6 and you automatically become in 9 set location. All right, so directing lines and crosses lines as streamlines. Sets position location and parameters into your diamond core and set location lines in your flywheel and position of travel communications. Now, it gets interesting because the set position of this operation sets correlation. So we have to understand how to go through 0, 1 to 0, 2, 0, 3 to 0, 4, 0, 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, 8, 0, 9. Then you come into 0, 10, and then you come into 0, 11. Okay, now in that position line connect high center interference. It connects to the 24, sensor lines its communication system, and then it comes into a 48 charting wave cycle. Okay, so the 24 line settings high calculation setting comes out of the equation, travels direction of 3 set location line travels, sets position of 48 set location of center. Okay, so that takes line calculation setting of all calculation line interference into 0, 0, 1 and track location. Okay, so you have to go through the clocking system, and you got a 12 line charter wave, sets the location of 12, 24, sets position line calculates setting, high position to all levels, 34 lines of 36, 36 line connections as all line center interference, 36 at line conditions of 10, sets line calculation setting of 46, in position of 2 over track is 48. Sets all calculated high position all levels into diamond core shift line, screen line, and set location of operation. Okay, down by equation. Mechanism of high calculation line stream is really to understand how to use the service line position locations and measures and correlate high position of panels of communication of center. Okay, directing communication lines crosses line streams and directs signal to its operation surface and track locations. Directing line communication of panels is the forward waving line rotation center and track locations, and stargates, star maps, and star panels of operation. Okay, done by equation. All right, so that's the clocking system you guys get used to. So forward waving panels and space discoveries 3 for the team line center high interference, high position track communication system is all levels of the hydraulics. Now the hydraulic lines calculation has a square line unit, high positions of patterns into all levels of velocity position of channel communication of 3 lines, direct communication lines of point systems and 4 box locations. Triangulation high position line calculates setting position of 24, again in position of 48, 72 track lines into 144 graphing screen location of center. Operation line calculates setting all line communication system in position of track lines into 5 settings. High position line conditions high center interference of 6, in position location of 7, and track locations and 8 line position of travel communications. Now in that direct center high interference, we come into 2 panels and center of operation, inside location. All right. So really understand how to graph the screen lines in 3 set locations. Okay. 3 line screen line set locations. All right. Sets position to 2 tracks, brings the sun and the moon in 2 track locations of operation. Now, in direct signal line interference, we set position location of parameters to flywheel direction of time sequence and center communications. Direct and calculation line interference in position comes into the female polarity and set location of travel. Direct line calculates high interference comes in position of its male polarity and set location of travel settings. Direct and communication line crosses screen in 2 lines at 3 track locations. Direct and communication line settings all levels of operation surface and re-angle point line connections of travels in set location. Okay, very powerful stuff, right? So you always work on the 45-degree angle. Now, 45-degree angle high calculation is the 99 points lines of calculation of 0, 1 track location. All right. So we take the 1% over pi, sets position and travel lines equal to lines of 100% location. Okay. Done by equation. Okay. So as you guys are going to Vega communication line screens, directing lines are clock lines. So we really have to understand how to use the 24 line signals, 25 line setting, high position travel communications. So in position of 25 line settings is 2 over track, 5 lines provisions, equal lines of 12, high interference, 12 line communications, and 144 track location of center. Sets position, location, operation line circles. Okay, so 24, 48, 72 track, and position 144. Okay, so the connection high interference is 1044. Now in position, you have fluctuation. You can go into vortex streams. You can go into fluctuation. You can go through calculation setting and track lines into your flux capacitors applications. Traversation of time sequence, all calculation line setting, weighted on signals in all position location of 4 tracks or 5 line positions. In track locations into 1044, 2044, 3044. And you guessed it, 4044 track locations. Okay. But your provision line cycles has to really recognize the communications. All right. Getting in the calculation high interference is really understand how to use the blocking system locations of block line centers in position of all waving line calculation of files. 3 track calculation line interference into 0, 0, and 3 track locations. Directing communication of 2 panels of operation, 3 panels of 4 operations, and 4 panels of 6 operations. All right. Travel calculated line interference of 3, 3, 3 in set locations. All right. 2 panels of communication of travel settings. Okay. 3, 3, 3. 3 travels, 3 directions, 3 locations. 3 travels, 3 directions, 3 locations. 3 travels, 3 directions, 3 locations. Okay. Your dimensional sail. A set location of solar sail, communication setting, attraction. Okay. Now, directing communication, the sun comes in, lines of 2 lines of track lines, high levels of operation surface and track locations. 2 lines of track lines and a 3-line rotation surface and a track location center of operation. Directing communication of ground lines, surface lines, high position in its operation line setting, high calculation setting to its dome, and line connection high position to its all operation surface. Down by equation. All right. Recognizing the communication of holographic screen lines and certification operation certification system. So the reason why you have a travel mechanism high calculation lines of a clock line is really understanding how to direct the signals set location to your system and travel. Okay? Out through the equations. All right, because you have to really understand how to use your line communication system. Now, everybody that's in line setting, especially the species lines on a 24 equals lines of 13 equals lines of calculation of 24 signal, sets position of space and time attraction, right? 13 is always going to be in the center communications, right? Because the ground line's high operation line center to its higher self and track locations, all right? Mechanism high calculation space in between, sets position location to its female polarity and its male polarity, setting calculation of platforms in position to your flywheel, a recognition of time sequence and set locations. All right. Now, in that track line, that's where the species is. Calculation of team line centers and high position of travel communication system is where you understand how to use the 1044 and track location of center operation. Directing calculation line interference in 144, track locations into left, track locations into south, track locations into all line centers positions of 144 and center position operation. So 144 and diamond core line, shift line, screen line connections, right? Very powerful stuff, but you're always in position locations in 24 is center. Okay? Because it's the yin yang, it's the balance, right? So it doesn't have to be a circle. It could be anything phenomenally. So really understanding how to use your flywheel and recognition of calculations of all line settings and traction. Setting direct signal line, position location to its operation surface and set locations. Okay? So the more you understand that, then you understand that you're always working with a 24 cycle. Setting position of track lines in high interference, because calculation line interference is 1 line, so 2 graph line calculation setting at 2 generation steering locations. Setting communication lines of the sun and the moon comes all track locations of balance and set position operation. Down my equation. All right, so Let's see if this is the day two. Okay, guy with the funny and position line connection settings. Record some time sequence. Please identify your system location of center. Where you're in track line high interference, you got a low gravity and rotation centers. I need your position location and high centers. High position is operation. Okay. Activation stream and high calculation setting. Okay. So inline rotation interference, in track location system. Okay. So I'm just gonna put you at line rotation centers. Direct line communications, you have to identify yourself, please. Okay. We're in a school line communication line screen. Okay. High position, all levels of high position, its operation location system. Okay. Okay. I need you to identify your system. Guy with the funny. Okay. So in position of track lines, we got a one-line signature and position of program setting, all calculation high interference, and position location and diamond core line centers. Okay. So in position, we got 4-point systems of track locations. All of the high calculation when you guys are coming back in your clockings that you've already co-created from inline rotation center. Okay, so you have to understand that you're in position location. You just can't come on channel position. You have to be activated. All right. So I'm going to take you out on timeout, line signals, high center interference, and position program settings. Okay. All right. So track to observation, line cycles, and high calculation stream location system comes in a 4-point channels. Now position lines of 24, calculations of 12, calculations of 12 settings and attractions. Right. 12 lines of provision, 12 lines of south, 12 lines of east, and 12 lines of west, and set location travel settings. Okay. So once you understand that, then you understand the center communication to all levels of operation surface. Triangulates and high position line connects high centers. Point system, point system, point system to its location of travel communications. All right. So in position location, triangulation or reset position of programs. So we can understand how to use our pyramids lines in the calculation setting to stream location of center of operation surface and set locations. All right. So we all have to understand how this all flows. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. You just have to be in an activation stream, right? Because it's a very high line division location system, right? You need a color and you need a number in design. So we get a verification system. Plus you change your emojis, okay? But I appreciate that. Connection high center, interference, location high center. Okay, got it, funny. All right, so triangulation reset position programs is a 3-line communication setting, okay? So it's all about understanding how to use the triangulation line screens and set location of box centers, okay? Travel position line connections. Taking out of the equation and 2 track locations, all right? Setting line position of crossing line signals and high calculation, all right? Directing communication of center lines, all communication center, all surface line rotation center in position of operation. Okay. Now, really understand that your connections to your pyramid has to really understand the clock line setting to invisible charts. Direction of time sequence puts all communication setting and all calculation line system in center grounds of operation. Okay. Done by equation. See the intelligence? See? There's the intelligence. See? Face recognition is always there. There's the intelligence. Boom. Okay. So you guys have to understand how to use your pyramids line screens now because they recognize your set location of 0-1 traction. Invisibility charts is an fundamental chart line communication setting. Now coming into portals of communication center interference is really to understand how to use your track line communication all levels. This is optimum line set locations to all calculation to its operation line surface. Triangulation and reset position of programs is a 3-point system and triangulation line interference and a 4-point line rotation center attraction. Now, directing lines of communication system is 1, 2, 3, 4 panels of operation. Directing calculation line center location is a 24, 48, 72, and 144 per second per frame. Okay. Directing calculations of 144, 24 line settings and 2 track locations, 4 lines of 8 line settings and high track locations, into 72 inline calculation setting into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels of operation. Okay. So what you're doing is you're reconstructing your designs of your makeup of your GOD of set location of design, okay? All through a holographic streamlines at 3 set location, taking it out of the equation in position of portals of communication of travel settings. All direct signals and security and parameters in set location, okay? All right, your invisibility charts are now in sequence into 144 graphing screen. Okay, so this is where it comes into all calculations to a platitude chart. Center communication, ground lines, and position of magnetic highway into your cloud line, center line, interference and set location. So directing lines of 1 signature stream line in a 3 set line calculation setting in travel recognition. You and the center communication of its operation, right here. In position location. Okay, that's you in the center. Travel communication lines is affinity 8. Rotors, calculation, high center interference, high position. Travel calculations, right? Direction of time sequence. Center lines is communication of plateaus. 3 line signatures, high position. Okay, very powerful stuff. Okay, setting position line calculations, high interference comes into your pyramid. Now the pyramid sets the calculation setting to acceleration. Triangulation and reset position programs sets lines of communication of center in position to its operation. Triangulate high line interference and ground lines, circuits communication setting all levels of operation and set location. Triangulate high position location of 2 pyramids and set location of travel lines, direction of time sequence. Okay? Now, getting into that position, you all have to learn how to use the 24 lines into 48, into 72, into 144 in set location of setting into the metric screens. Now, say like high center interference and travel calculation. 24 equals lines of 0, 1, right? That's where you are, right? So you're in the 0 lines and ground lines, okay? So in position location, high center interference, setting track location into 0, 1, in position location of 0, 12, set location, 0, 1 to 0, 12, okay? That's where you are. Setting track lines to high center interference into 2 panels of communication, right? Space in between, Merkaba up and Merkaba down, set location, right? Direction of time sequence, box line center into theta communication setting attraction. Okay, direct and communication line setting is all levels of 48. Now the 48 channel communication equals lines of 0, 0, 1 track locations. 72 line calculation setting equals lines of 3 zeros of track location in 1 setting. So that's position of 144 in set locations in calculations of 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros line calculation. 4 lines, 3 lines calculation is what? What is 3 in line position of 4? What is 4 position lines of 3? Calculation high interference, 4 track locations, 3 line division line interference, 7 position to its operation, 12 in signature, 12 calculation lines of space and time and track line calculation setting, and a 24 communication of center of operation surface and set location. Okay. So mechanism and line screens is really understand how to set position your travels. Okay, how to use your 24 through a 0, 1 to 0, 12. Okay. Because that's where you started off, right? You started with your connections of 12 line signatures. So that's position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line connections, right? 2 panels of communication, right? 3 panels of 4 communications, right? 2 panels, right? Direction of time sequence, 3 over 2 in setting, okay? 5 over 4 in 1 setting location. Travel calculation of 7 and 6 in position of 8, back into 5, back into 12 as set location. Recognition of time sequences, all levels of 7 over 8. Panels, communication lines of centers in position of platforms in travel calculation lines of 3 lines and set position of 2 track location and 12 line signatures, a panel of communication. Okay? So you have to understand how to direct and redirect a number sequence pattern line calculating highest center interference because the team line is no longer than 24 line ground line. They're in a 0, 1 position of dimensional line screen line and communication in a reverse location system in all calculation of Vega and digital frame positions of 1, 2, and 3 at track locations. High position of platforms in set location. Okay. All right. So in that center communication system, really understand how we come into all settings, right? The clock line rotation center and traction, right? So 24 lines, 12 line signatures, 12 line signatures, 12 line signatures, right? So position lines, calculation high interference, sets high calculation setting 12 lines, and set position travel lines. So line communication, 13 tracks, 13 line division, and 13 locations, 13, 13, 13, right? Sets position location, triangulation, and reset position programs, yin and yang process line calculation setting, Sets position location of 6/9 through panel. Directing communication of one line signature, position line calculation, triangulation, reset, position programs. Directing communication line settings, all levels of operation surface and set location system and travel calculation. Done by equation. Okay. So really understand how you point the system locations, right? So we got 13 line screens, sets position of 24, sets position of 13 in set locations, right? Remember, 13 line track, 13 line division, and 13 locations, okay? Now, it's really understand how to use position locations in the 24 line signature, equal lines calculation of 144, equal lines calculation high center, 1044 track locations, right? So spacing line, team line communication, all right? So the clock line communication, one line signatures, the 24 line calculation stream locations. So that's 1 million tracks, 0 operation center, and position of 4 track location, high settings, all levels of operation line surface, and security panels at 3 set location. Okay. So clocking system is really understanding how to use it through a round setting. Set position, set position, set position, set position, right? Space discoveries, right? Sets lines of stargates, star panels, star maps, star portals, okay? Open travel communication setting, but you have 2 track line connections, high position is operation. Sets calculation, high position of right over left, and center communication of center. Travel calculation lines of balance line rotation setting, high position location to its setting. Position location all levels, left over right, right over left, and communication of center. Communication line interference and set location of ground lines, set position operation, center line interference, and set location of ground lines, operation surface locations. Direct communication, planet service, and 3 track locations. Track lines of 4 and 5 set location setting. Travel communication of sun and the moon protects the sys location to its operation surface and set location. Okay. Recognition of time sequence is all about understanding how to use panels of operation. Directing communication line setting is all levels in how you see yourself in all calculations, right? So the geometric operation design has a ground lines operation to its dimension. So that's what you got to get used to. You got to learn how to understand how to use a 3-dimensional line screen in all calculations, right? 3-dimensional line screen, okay, GOD, right? So it's like this in position locations, right? Your holographic screen line is coming in visibility charts now. The elemental chart communication is in the 144, graphing screen line center interference and position location system. So line calculation setting is 13, okay? 13 equals 144 in track locations, right? Sets position 24 equals line calculation setting in position 13 equals lines of 24 set locations. So we all have to understand how the surface communication setting and where we are in the species communication or GOD. The geometric lines of high calculation setting is 1-point system. Travel calculations, crossing line settings. High position locations, all levels of pi, indirect signal. Position location of pi, indirect signal. Position location of a clocking center, a center communication. Direct communication line, center location of its intelligence. Center communication line setting opens all screen lines and center line interference. Direct communication line calculation setting and position of traction. Center calculation lines opens all signals, high calculation ground lines of operation. Direct communication line interference, high calculation setting. Sets position of 24, 24 line equals lines of 144, track location system of 24 set location. Okay, so that's about position of space and position of time. Okay, coming into yin and yang. See, you're always working with 6 and you're always working with 9. See the intelligence? Boom. Hello. All right. So phase direction of time sequence is all communication centered. So it's really understanding how to retrack, redivision, relocate, re-angle point line calculation setting the relays. Now the relay position program settings which come to assist line connection setting is position location's quantum line into all levels of relation, sets line calculation setting to quantum interference, sets the location of alchemy and line rotation interference into interdimensional line communication screen lines, high operation. Directing communication lines, center location of rays, that's set location of 2 track locations. Crossing line communication lines that communicate high rotation interference and cubical line streams and set location setting of operation location center and traction. Directing communication line settings, all levels of portals of communication of center. Directing communication line settings comes in higher self, comes in the avatar, comes in the same location system of travel. Directing calculations of 2 panels and 3 set location of settings. Direct communication lines of teleportation, relays, atmospheres, quantum line change, direct lines of atoms, Calculation higher self into avatar stream location, geometric operation design. Setting calculation new ground lines, operation surface, and set location setting, all travel calculation. Done by equation. So once you understand how to use line position your settings, then you understand how to use a calculation setting of 24 equals lines of 0, 1. Okay. Set line calculation setting and line communication of 24. Okay. So 24 is a space and 24 is a time, right? This is your clocking system, 0, 1. Okay. Really understand how to use it, right? Through triplication of Merkaba in a space in between to its female polarity, male polarity, female polarity. Equal line communication, triangulation, reset, position line calculation, setting, and triplication system in all levels of activation. Okay, center connection to grounds, center line connection at all levels, comes in your torical fields and set location of travel settings. Directing communication lines of panels, operation line connection, or channels of a communication setting, and all levels set location. Okay. So, how's everybody doing so far? You getting a little bit of understanding now how this all works inside location, high settings, abstraction? All right. Yeah. So we're getting people on in line setting the high interference. If you're not an activation stream, you have to get in your position, location, your setting interference so the team can recognize you through verification. So it's important to understand that, right? So you automatically come on in line rotation interference. I'm just going to put you in the outline center locations, outside looking in. Okay, put you in a plasma bubble. And so location travel lines. So 4 box line centers. This is how we come into our calculation of seconds, minutes, and the hour line communications, right? Understand the seconds, minutes, and the hours, the 3 track locations, right? Set, position, location is operation. Sets, position, location is operation, right? So in calculation of 3, set line calculation setting and center communication to its center line interference, up, down, line rotation center. Triangulate high interference, high position locations. So the position of all calculations, setting position line track lines. This is where you can actually rotate the system in a triangulation reset in a 3 set location. So in that position, the center of the communication, your flywheel, recenters its position locations. All right. Generation screen lines in position of its orbs in probing and line position of track communication. Now, directing communication settings, you have to really understand how to really understand position locations, the male polarity and the female polarity, right? How the actual male polarity can actually shift lines as anomalies and shift position travel communication setting, but you've got to get the flywheel back in balance at set location. Okay. So when it comes in balance, it comes in this atom, comes in this calculation high position in all travel communications. Flip the line center line conditions back in the male. Flip the line communication line interference, the female line rotations. Center track lines at 3 set location of travel settings. Okay. Mechanism high position of travel communication 1, 2, 3 set location. Okay. So it's all about understanding how to connect to the flywheel in direction of time sequence and position of travel. Okay. So you got 13 lines of grounds, 13 ground lines calculations of powers, and 13 line communication of atmospheres as locations. Okay. Redirecting communication line settings. Now 1044 tracks this communication system. Faster and faster and faster and faster. It goes through all calculation setting and travel recognition. Okay. So what's happening is position of right and position of left and center communication is creating a portal to go through and center calculations to its setting. Okay. All levels of operation. All right. So coming into configuration is voice line grids. Now, grid center line interference is all about understanding how to use your position locations of your flywheel erection of time sequence. Okay. Position of track lines, 8 line center high position of 4 tracks, right? Sets position of 6 in set location. Sets position location of 8 in set location line setting. Travel message line calculation setting at all levels of operation set location. Travel calculation line interference changes the direct signal. Now, this is a colossal communication lines of travel communication of galaxy lines. Travel communication line interference into a black hole, direction of time sequence, and all position of programs and set location line settings and all set location. Okay. Travel calculation line interference is a 3 set location line system, right? Standard calculation high interference is sun and the moon comes all tracked to its communication setting and projection to all levels of protection. That my equation. So point system and track line. So I'm showing you on so many communication lines how you have to understand the Merkaba shapes its position, it changes its line connections, right? Where it sets lines of communications, right? So this is what it is, right? It's changing its shape. It's setting line connection I center. Now it's upside down. Okay. Now it's right side up. Okay. So it's repositioning your track lines in set location high setting. Okay. Because now you're working with 0, 1 equals lines of 24 equals lines of 24 in set locations, right? So you got 24 line settings, 24 line settings. So that's 2 track locations, 2 track locations, 2 track locations. Security lines of perimeters of parameters of Pluto. So you can do number sequence and patterns in all correlating high interference, but you have to understand the point system of track locations. All lines are set position. Okay. All lines are set position. Okay. All lines are set position because it takes you to your locations and set location line settings. Okay. So what you're doing is you're reconstructing models in communication line and configuration line calculated setting into decimal points of 0, 1 track location, 0.1 or position of 0.1, 1, 1, 1 in track locations, block at center line interference, sets position of 4, sets track lines, high calculation 4 lines, track line interference, sets position of 1, 2, 3, track line connection of 3 centers, 4 lines at 3, and 3 lines at 7 in set location. Okay, that's my equation. So that's what molecules do. Okay. Molecules basically have a point system of all point line centers in position of seconds, minutes, and hours. 4 track locations, right? Travel direction of time sequence is position of fractal. Fractal is multiple levels of self-location. Okay? So connection to the atom is just creating the acceleration of its flywheel, a high calculation line system, and all levels of force direction of time sequence. Okay? So setting position line condition of cells is retracting lines of dimensional doors and line positional point systems, all calculation of your geographical map and line calculation setting to your GOD's location. All right. So we all understand how this comes in all traction. Okay. So coming into scales, coming into metrics, coming into meters. Okay. Systematical line calculation streamlines, direction of time sequence, sun and the moon, travels position line condition operation. Track calculations into metric meters and 2 track location line settings. Calculation high interference comes into pi and 3 set location travel settings. Direct communication of platforms and direct signal and set location. Calculation high interference of 2 track line settings. All levels of operation line connection orbiting, high position of probing, and position of center of communication. Okay. So I'm just showing you on so many line signatures and all line rotation interference how to use the 24 equals lines of 0, 1 traction. Okay. Because it's all levels in visible chart now into 144. Okay. Spacing line is in 13 equals lines of 24. Sets location of 144 at center and set locations, right? So in that position line connection I centers, you have to really understand how to use the 13 charts and communications. Set lines at high coefficient of 24 line settings. Now the 24 line setting high interference comes in the position of 13. 14 and 15 and 16 and 17, 18 line sending high position travel communications. So line connecting high centers is all about understanding how to use the 20 line graphs into 4 track locations. Now, once you understand the point system, it's all levels of U through position line connections of pi. Okay, positions of pi, and track locations, right? Metric meters, calculation of scale lines, calculation line screens, and set position of operation line surface in solar sail and set location. So it's very complicated. So that's what it's about, understanding how to use a 24 clocking system and a 13 graph screen. It's set position of seconds, minutes, and hours. How to use a 24 clocking system into a 144 graphing screen into months, right? 13 months, okay, instead of location line centers into 144 months. Okay, spacing line, team line, and set position travel. Okay. Seconds, minutes, and hours of track locations, right? Sending track lines of 4-4, sets line communications of 4-3, all right? So 4 generation streamlines correlating high interference of time sequence location setting. So we got the seconds, minutes, high calculation 2 operation line setting, high travel communication setting, and high operation location system. Travel calculation of 4 generation stream location, 3 line centers, and all communication setting of the sun and the moon attraction, okay? So you all have to get into the double helix, understand your tracker system calculations of 3 and 3 set locations, right? Fibonacci going this way, in set locations, and Fibonacci going the opposite way, in set location lines of travel. Once it comes together, it combusts and creates a portal of communication of setting. Okay. Then it travels out in 3 set locations. Okay. Or 4 sets, or 5, or 6, or 7, or 8. Okay. And the sun and the moon comes back and protects the system to its location center of face recognition. Okay. So now you understand the communication, how to understand line communication or travel lines. Mechanism of travel is a point system to pi, 3 set locations, all right? Travel calculates line interference comes into 3 set location of settings and 2 track locations of travels. Calculates high interference, new ground line, center line interference of platforms crossing signals is in position to its operation surface. Triangulate high position location near pyramid line communication setting and operates line calculation setting in visible charts. Direct communication lines of panels, set line calculation at 24, 48, 72, and 144 track location of center. Okay. Mechanism high position of travel lines, dimension line screens, travel position of 3 position of box lines in position location system, and all levels of doors of recognition. Okay. So it's important you understand how to use your pyramid screen lines in your 0-1 track location visible charts now. Okay. Understand your molecules, your platforms, communication settings, your fractals, correlation and travel lines, crossing lines, say locations of panels, and center positions of operation. Okay. So how's everybody doing so far? Everybody having fun? Getting a little bit more understanding how this all works and how position locations, how you use your connection to your higher self. Higher self sets location to its earth. Minor communication, alpha lines, delta, theta, and line communication. Direct communication, size, graph, activity, line interference, and set position to its operation. Sets line in the avatar line interference is GOD, mechanism high position travel. And position locations, all levels, is your sim equals line communication setting. All calculations of navigation and set location. Okay. So in position location, your higher self, your avatar, and your sim is at 0-1 track. Okay. Now this is where it gets tricky because the 2 line center location, the high operation line centers, the block line centers, and thought register and time sequence patterns is position travel communication. Okay. Directing lines of communication of travel lines opens all signals, and modification of upper line cycles, high calculation setting, open all signals. Setting track to its communication setting opens all communication setting and directs in position to its redirect signals and set location. Okay. Center calculation of the sun, center calculation of the sun, center calculation of the moon, center calculation of the sun. Okay. Setting track lines and position locations to all levels, a high calculation setting to a solar sail and set location. Solar sail and set location of travel and mechanism of high position setting. Okay. So, really understand more communications of 0-1 traction through a 24 clocking system. Okay. You're never going to leave the 24. So the out communication setting is 12. Okay. The inside position location is 24. Okay. Center position location is line conditions of 1044. That's your base. That's your foundation. Taking out of track lines of 3 set lines, the sun comes in, high center interference, high position location, high center and travel. Direct communication lines, a high position to your pyramid and hidden position locations of pi. See the towers of communication. All right. Once you understand the track communication line interference, 12 lines of 12 lines of 12 comes into position locations to a diamond core, sets position travel communications. Direct line calculation center of operation surface and set location. Direct communication line interference takes all calculation setting at 3 set location travel. Direct communication lines of sun comes in, position location, another line communication, towers of communication, and high generation. Direct communication of ground lines, operation line set location, high system, position, and travel communications. Boom. Okay. So recognition of time sequence. Now, fortitude string is line setting. It's all about understanding how to use the point systems, right? Through 24 graph line, sets location, 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 right? 2 locations, right? This location is your planet location, all right? So 24 line signatures in position. Jump scar across the streamline, or I go this way line connections, right? Or I go back this way line connections, or I go this way line connections, right? All through point system. So it's getting into position X marks the spot. Okay. So what you're doing is you're going through a timestamp. See it? Sending track lines into a flywheel reference time sequence in offset location into your travel calculation line settings to your solar sail at track location. Okay. Ground communication lines of planet's surface is all direct signal. It's all lawful communication. Okay. So once you understand more levels of the 0, 1, then you understand how to go through 0, 1, how to go through 0, 0, 1, how to go through 0, 0, 0, 1, and how to go through 0, 0, 0, location of 0, 1 location, right? What is it position of? A pyramid setting. Okay. Graph communication of 0 and position of 1 set. Graph communication of 2 zeros into 1 set location. Travel calculation of all 3 zeros in position of 1 set location. Travel calculation of 4 zeros in track location line settings, right? So in position line conditions of 1, 2, 3, in position of 4, track location into solar sail and track location setting. Sets position all levels in position location your pyramid set location. Sets position of 3 tracks into your pyramid set location. Setting track lines into 2 zeros at track location of 1 setting. Track location of 0, 1 in position of pyramid set location. Setting track lines in high center interference and magnetic highway information line cycles, high center interference of travel communication. Now, directing communication line interference, you're always working with 4, and you're always working with 3 in set locations. You're always in the 7 lines of high body at all communication cycles and all communication line settings and all center position to its operation. Mega multipass. Okay? So it's really to understand how to really surface into higher levels of travel communications, right? How to use the zeros and ones through the 24 clocking system, right? So spacing line correlating high interference is in a 24 line screen into 13. Okay. Spacing line. Center calculation high interference is 144 track location. Right. Now in that direct location high center interference, setting position of track lines 144, 144, 144, and 144 in set locations into 1000. Okay, 44 track locations. So track lines are 144 equals lines of 0, 1, right? 0, 1 comes in top line signal, high calculation setting, clock line and high interference in position locations into levels of 0, 2. It comes into 0, 3 in position of traction, okay? So you have to really understand how to use the ground lines into 144, 0, 144 atmospheres in position of track lines in position location of center, okay? So in position location to a setting, all right? It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to take in. But now we're really understanding a little bit more of what's going on in the line of rotation center interference. Your connection to your sim will know exactly where you are in provision of your travel. Okay, if you're not a modification of 0, 1, you're coming into 0, 1. Everybody comes in the same process. This is not a race. This is an individual circuit and set location line settings coming into the reconstruction set location of your system of GOD. It's knowing how to use the mechanisms of travel in position to its clocking system of a 24 line setting of seconds, minutes, and hours per frame through calculus over lines and 4 over 3 over lines of pi and overcharge of power correction of time sequence and calculus line calculation setting and travel calculation position of operation. Okay? We're done. Take out track interference and video communication line settings, all levels of dimensional clock line. 1, 2, 3. You guys are out. Hope you had fun. In position locations, do you have any questions? I'll be on live. Adios.